Good evening, everyone. I would like to welcome you to the Archives and History Library. I'm Bobby Taylor, the library manager, and we've got a great program for you all tonight. But before we get to the program, I'd like to tell you all a little bit about what's coming up. On October the 1st, an introduction to the Grave Creek Mound Archaeological Complex, a West Virginia Historic Site, Museum, and Research Center. And this will be put on by David E. Rutanas. And then on October the 10th, we will have Jean Epley, and she will be doing something really interesting as well, and it's finding hidden Native American ancestors. That will be a very interesting topic because there's a high level of interest in proving Native American history. We'd like to remind you to check out our website. There you can see all of the upcoming lectures that we have planned in advance of them being presented. Okay, tonight's program is a very interesting one, and Steve Hart will present family history, the SAR and Re-enacting, and he'll also discuss something that's very interesting to genealogists, and it will be the requirements for admission into the Sons of the American Revolution, how he proved his own genealogy, and I find this very interesting. And he'll also talk about his participation in reenacting. Steve is a native of Elkins, and he is a retired stonecutter who worked on government and commercial structures in places such as Washington, D.C., Baltimore, and New York. He is the president of the Daniel Boone Chapter, SAR. He is first vice president of the WVSAR and a member of the board for Fort Randolph at Point Pleasant. And I've been wanting to get to one of those reenacting programs that they have down there, and I've not made it yet, but I'm going to one of these days and try to also prove my lineage to get into the SAR. But with no further comments or presentations, I would like to introduce you to tonight's speaker, good friend who loves his involvement in history and reenacting, Steve Hart.
Thank you very much for letting me have a chance to speak. I spend a lot of time in this room right here researching applications for the SAR. When I have a little bit of spare time, I try to pick up some little side stuff for my own to prove other patriots that I have in my family lineage in the SAR. Got to see which one of these go, right? That just happens to be me. This is one of the reenactments down at Fort Randolph. We reenact the siege of Fort Randolph that happened in 1776, 77 era. We actually do living history drama of murder of Chief Cornstalk, along with last year we had an execution of a Tory spy. We had a theft trial. We sold a family into indentured servitude. Put a gentleman in the stockade for his weapon being dirty. And we had 2 Indian trade blankets. So we try really hard to show the people that come down there actually what happened at the time. We do a lot of research. Every year we change some of the dramas up that we present, and it's a good time. It really is. It's the third weekend in May, and the first weekend of every month we try to have a different program down at the fort. So if you're all ever down in Point Pleasant in that area, stop by and see us. When I started on my quest to find out my family history, we was actually at a family reunion, and I mentioned that we were related to John Hart, signer of the Declaration of Independence. One of my cousins stood up and he said, "Oh no, we're not." He said there was an Indian, there was a deer hunter that came through and picked up an Indian wife, and that's the way that the Harts came out. They were named after a deer hunter. I just kind of felt a lump in my throat and a pit in my stomach, and the quest was on. I had to prove it. I had heard it when I was growing up, never knew much about it, and finally I started coming up here and digging, and I think that these guys back here thought that I was writing a book, because I was in here for almost a year solid, getting every piece of information that I could find to link me to Daniel Hart, which Daniel Hart is John Hart's son. He moved down here to Beverly, which is in Randolph County, in 1794, him and his brother Edward. So when you start out, when you start out, you need to start out with yourself. This is my father. I use census records. Census records are a big help. They tell you the area that your family lived in. They would tell, back until 1850, they will tell you the name of the father, the mother, and all the children on the census records. They'll tell you what their occupation was. They'll tell you if they were educated or not, if they could read or write. And over on some of the later ones, they actually have, where was your father born, where was your mother born, and that's another step back to the generation of looking, okay, if my father was born in West Virginia, and I would look over there and it would say his father was born in New Jersey, then the next step back is I would either look for his death record, or I would look for his death record in West Virginia, or I would start looking for his birth record in New Jersey. So the census holds a lot of keys to a lot of different stuff. When you go through down here on the bottom, and we can tell you where they're buried at, I can stand at my father's grave. John Hart is my 6th great grandfather. And I can stand in my father's grave and I can see everybody in my family except for Daniel, and he's buried 13 miles up the road, and then it's a quest to Hopewell, New Jersey to see John Hart's grave. So we've been rooted in West Virginia for a while. This was my grandfather. This is the information about him. He was born in 1901. So I went back to the 1910 census, which is closest to him. I found him on there with his father. I found his age on there. Found that he was also a twin. Twins do run in our family because both of my sides of my family come from a Hart twin. This is my great-grandfather. The only picture I could find of him was this one right here, and this is a 1902 picture of when he was on a baseball team. Back then, every little town had a baseball team. That was the big thing, and that's what he did. I found him in one playbill at Beverly, at an old play that they had up there. So my family's lived in the same county since they came here. New Interest or Kearns is on the way to Parsons. They moved out there in probably early 1800s. So we've been the home place up there. Every generation back to Daniel has lived in that same location. The land went from 2,200 acres to 26 acres now. The house is still standing. This is my great-grandfather. He was a pastor. This is actually him right here in this picture, and my grandfather, this is actually him right here. I'm sorry, there is two pictures of him. This is a picture of Taylor B. Again, back to the census. You notice that his born date is 1854, so you're going to be looking at Virginia. Same place, he lived in the same house when he died, 1913, which is after 1863 when we became a state. States changed, his place never did. Jacob Scudder. The only thing that I could find on him was a census record. This information was all gathered from the census. In the back here, they have microfilm, and it is a gold mine, just a root in the microfilm. You can go back, indexed, it's a really well indexed. You can pull up anything that you want to pull up. I actually couldn't find my grandmother and grandfather's marriage record, and I was rooting in Randolph County. They were actually married in Barber County. Now, he was 3 years old, 4 years old when they moved from New Jersey. This is the census record for that's an 1850 census record right here. So that's the earliest record that I could find that listed him on it with his wife and the kids. So you start going back there, census records are good. I pull the census records and use them as a guideline. Once I get past the census records, I go for a birth record, I go for a death record. Land transactions are good. Wills are good. Even itemized list, you see the stuff here on the table. You can actually find a will and an itemized list where the stuff had to be sold off. And you will find 1 tin cup. You will find 3 butcher knives. You'll find 1 gun. You'll find 3 powder horns, and all that stuff's listed when they settle their estates. And also, you'll find who the money went to. You'll find in the wills or land records. You'll find the name of the children. If the youngest one is gathering it all for taking care of mom and dad, the rest of the family will sign off on it if you're lucky, and it goes to the youngest person. And we had a gentleman, and that I was putting in the SAR. That key piece of paper right there was the only thing that I got him in the SAR with, because the information that was found in a land contract. I looked for a will, no will. I knew the gentleman's lineage, couldn't prove it until we dug up that piece of paper. So when you're on something, root as hard as you can root, and if you go back another generation and you can't find it, come back to it. Mark it, come back to it, because you'll be sitting home watching television, you'll say, oh, I forgot to check this, or how about this chancellor's list, or, and you come back and we'll find it on there. When you get back towards the Revolutionary War, muster rolls, tax lists, there's, for a lot of proven service, there was a gentleman came through, Drapier. He wrote a series of books that he actually went and the living Revolutionary War soldiers that was left, he tried to interview them all. If it wasn't that, most of them were first generation. My father fought in the Revolutionary War, and I know he did. And if you have that type of information in Drapier, back here on the back, there's some references to pension records. And everybody thinks that pension record should hold everybody that fought in the Revolutionary War. The pension records are, they're the 4 big books back there in the back that Jamie's pointing to. Pension records, not everybody signed up for a pension. If they were wealthy gentlemen, they didn't need a pension record. That's why you would have to go to a file that had, if you fought in the militia, continental files. There's such thing as called Fold 3, that's a lot of military records that's put on. If you go to Ancestry, I use Ancestry as a guideline. I don't use it as God's honest proof, because there's a lot of stuff that's on there that I could go out and put on. Until you have a record, as a census record, as a tax form, something that the government holds, you really, hearsay's okay, but until you have that in your hand, it's not a proven fact. And it's not that these books over here, they're not good. I do a lot of research in them. Matter of fact, both of these books here that I've just picked up, this one is a book called Hart of Randolph County. This book is written by my cousin. She was a school teacher at the time that everybody had to go to a different, to get this information, she had to visit courthouses. It took her about 20 years to compile this book. Now she can compile this book in about 3 days on the computer, if the information would be right. This one right here is my mother's side of the family. I thought until the other day that both my mother and my father were related back to John Hart. Some information that I found on the computer. Come to find out, I referred back to this book here. Once I got back to that book there, I started looking around, and I actually went back and pulled up a death record and a birth record, and the person that I thought that I should be going down is nowhere related to the Harts at all, through the Coberly side. So I thought that if I went back to John Hart on the Coberly side, that everybody on my mother's side could join the SAR. The men could. It's not going to happen. So John Scudder Hart. Scudder is actually John Hart's wife's maiden name. That's the way that he got his name. And also, again, he's buried at Israel Church Cemetery out of Kearns. Daniel Hart. Daniel Hart is John Hart's son. This is an 1810 census. It's called a tick mark census because you'll find the head of the household in here. These columns that run across this way on here are actually males, females, 1 to 5, 5 to 10, 10 to 15, 15 to 20. So you find their ages by the number of in here. If they would have had 2, it would have been 2 males, but you just go through and find your head of household, and you can see who they are, no names. This is an heir of John. This is the heir of Daniel Hart. This is actually, this is John Scudder, his son, put in for his Revolutionary War bounty. This is a certificate that said what he got when it was given to him. It's for, it says right here, for Daniel Hart. He was a private in Captain Morey's in the infantry. It tells the division and all. This is 1834 when they started putting together pensions, and people could sign up for a dead relative. So he is a veteran of the Revolutionary War. As the SAR, we marked his grave in Beverly of the cemetery. Him and Edward Bowe, his brother, they both served under Washington, along with Jesse Hart. and Nathaniel Hart. They were covert, they were spies, they rode with Washington. Washington, if you read, it kind of looks like he kind of disappeared and you don't really see him much in everyday history. And what he was doing, he was skirting the back of New Jersey, back in that area through New Jersey and New York, and he could be up in New England one minute, and a few days later he could be in Philadelphia. So, and that was from skirting back and forth behind the scenes, and the Hart boys helped him a great deal as a spy. Edward Hart, which is him and Daniel, moved down here together, like I said, in 1794. Edward came down a little bit early. Edward was given furlough, 3-day furlough, by George Washington to get married, and George Washington attended the wedding in Hopewell, New Jersey. There's a lot of references of the Hart, of him having meals with John Hart. Actually, you see here Peggy Bunn in the 1850 census. If you scan all the way over to the other side of the census, it has her listed as insane. The reason that she was listed as insane, for one, she was down here in the middle of West Virginia, or Virginia at the time, right on the frontier. She used to sit on the porch and talk to the people coming by and say, I remember when George Washington used to come to my father-in-law's house. He used to sit and he used to eat with us. We knew George Washington. He was a great family friend. People up here, they took her for being insane because she was telling the God's honest truth. But they would have never known. Nobody back then could have trailed them back down here, and it was kind of kept quiet. Daniel took the first census in 1810. That's actually his handwriting here. This is his signature. I have the back of the book where he signed the front and the back of the book of both. 1820, 1821, he represented Randolph County in the Virginia legislature. This was the Sons of the American Revolution. This is one thing we do. We go out, we actively search for Revolutionary War veterans' graves. If you know of an old cemetery, contact us. Contact either the state, contact me here, contact here, and they'll get a hold of me. We'll go out and we'll see if that grave is a grave of a Revolutionary War veteran, and we will do everything we can to mark it. This summer, in June, we actually had compatriots from Texas. His family was having their family reunion up here at Hawk's Nest. We marked his grave over at Anstead. The gentleman, actually his name was Vandell, Abraham Vandell. He donated the land of Fayetteville now sits on. But that's something that we do as the SAR. It's our duty to mark our patriots' graves. These are some of the pictures. This is the program that my wife typed up. This is our color guard from, we had people there from Indiana, we had people from Ohio, we had people from here all over the state. This is the group of the color guard here. These are actually the DAR ladies fixed us. The first time I'd ever been given any lemonade and homemade cookies at a grave marking. This just happens to be the DAR chapter in Elkins, and it is the John Hart chapter. They were really great about coming out. Of course, this is a grizzly bunch over here. This is the state color guard at that time. We are actively looking all the time for younger members in the SAR so we can go all over the state and have more than just one function to reach out to the people at one time. This is John Hart. It's an early rendering of him. That is one of 2 pictures that is known of John Hart. He was born, I have 1711 here. It's questionable between 1711 and 1713. He was baptized in 1713, so a lot of people go off the baptismal record as his date of birth, but it's not. He married Deborah Scudder, as you know. James Scudder took his last name from Grandma. John Hart started in public office in the British government in 1750. He died in 1779. He never did see the end of the Revolutionary War. The Revolutionary War ended in 1783. He was a signer of the Declaration of Independence. Everybody thinks the Declaration of Independence was signed all at one time in one smoky room, July 4th. 3 people signed the original Declaration of Independence on July 2nd. It was read on July 4th. John Hart never signed it until August the 2nd. We've been to his gravesite. It's at Hopewell Old School Baptist Meeting House. He actually donated the land that was, actually he's buried, if you take the streets out, in his front yard. 2 blocks behind it is Hart Street in Hopewell, New Jersey, and it looks right down on the Baptist Meeting House, right on the main road. And the side road goes over to the Pennsylvania border, and that's where Deborah Scudder lived over there. It's noted that he would go over after he got done work. He worked at his father's grist mill and his cotton mills. He would ride his horse over there. He would quarter. He would fall asleep, and the horse would ride him home. He'd wake up in the barn. So the horse knew his way back. So that was the way their courtship went. This is a 1 shilling bill that John Hart signed. One of his acts was he did sign New Jersey money in one setting. He signed, I think it's about 25,000 notes he signed, and each note is actually about this big around. So him and there was three men that were set up on the committee to sign it. John was one of them. It's one of the rare pieces that you're going to find of a signer of the Declaration of Independence also signing a piece of money. I follow them all the time, and they can be a bit pricey, but that's one honor that I do have, that besides looking at the Declaration of Independence when I was a kid, I can find that his name on money for New Jersey. This is the signers of the Declaration of Independence. Yep. I'll find him here in a minute. Actually, he's on here, and my wife's 8th great uncle also signed the Declaration of Independence, Thomas Stone. Here's John Hart, right here, and Thomas Stone is
Where's the stone line from?
actually the stone line comes out of Maryland, and Val, they were in New Jersey. Her mother was a Regal, and her grandmother was a Stone from up here in Malden. So it does reach back into West Virginia. These are obituaries for John Hart that I've drug up. Now, in the SAR, it's a lineage organization that you have to prove your lineage back, whether it's a birth, death. If you have a name change, it don't have to be a Hart all the way back. Mine just happens to be a Hart all the way back. You can go back your mother's side for a generation or two and jump back to your grandfather's side, just as long as you can prove a marriage and just as long as you can prove the relationship between a father and a child, whether it's male or female, until you get back to somebody that served in the Revolutionary War. Either service, aid, or if they were a pastor and preached freedom from the pulpit, those are things that the SAR uses. As a reenactor and a member of the SAR, I try to go out to schools. I visit schools. Actually, I have one in Elkins that I need to go to. I go to DAR chapters. I've been to the DAR chapter and spoke in Elkins. I've been to schools over over around Summersville. I do Boy Scouts. I was the Eagle Scout Scholarship Committee chairman for 4 years. I traveled to a lot of scout troops, a lot of Cub Scout troops, and talk to the boys. I would take my stuff and show them. The big thing they like is the fact that Scouts like any time you can give a kid either a patch or teach him how to make fire, he's all happy, and that's what I do. That's my demo as a reenactor, is I teach flint and steel magnifying glass fire building skills, and ain't nothing better than seeing a kid's eyes when you just go and start blowing on a bird's nest and it just goes up in the flame. They just don't know how that happens, but it does. And they really like it. Our outreach, we reach grade schools through poster contests, middle school and high school and essay contest, oration contest we have. We actually have contests for ROTC, junior ROTC, that we try to reach out and give scholarship money to the kids. If anybody's a teacher in here, you want me to come to your school, drop me a line, get a hold of me here. I'll gladly come and talk to your kids. I was at a school yesterday. They want me to come back and give they want me to talk to the whole school. I have 2 classes over at Anstead, over at Highco. They want me to come and teach 2 history classes over there, and I need to do 2 more presentations over there this year. Again, I have another one in Elkins that a friend of mine, she wants me to come up and talk to her class. She's trying to give me 2 or 3 up there, so it's not a 1 trip or a 1 speaking day up there. Excuse me. Our outreach that we do is, excuse me for turning my back to you. Our outreach that we do is through the Boy Scouts, we reach with the Eagle Scout Scholarship. We reach them that way. We give citizenship awards out. You don't have to be a member this is stuff that we give out through the community. We give Lawman Award, EMT Awards, Firefighter Awards, Heroism Awards. We give those out. We're in the Wounded Warrior programs. We give out flags, certificates to schools, businesses who properly, even individuals, who properly display the flag. Either keep it lit, keep a new flag after the old one's there. We retire flags. I do it with my Boy Scouts. We just had I think they just retired like 62 of them down at Point Pleasant between the SAR and the American Legion down there. They've been picking flags up. I know Parkersburg, they're getting the Parkersburg chapter, they're getting ready to put a mailbox. They bought an old mailbox and they decided to put this mailbox out. And if you have a retired flag or will need a flag that needs to be retired, pick it up, put it in the mailbox. They will retire it, not dispose of it. They will retire it in proper manner. Proper manner is not wadding it up and throwing it in a trash bag. Please don't do that to her. She means too much to us. This is some of the SAR events that we've done. This is, I know it's a dark picture. This is History Day inside the Capitol. I've done it for the last 3-4 years myself. Grave markings. This is parades we did at Point Pleasant. We've done parades here. We've done parades in Ripley. This is part of the grave marking that's coming up. Battle Days, which is the first battle of the American Revolutionary War, was actually fought down at Point Pleasant. It wasn't Bunker Hill. It was actually fought down there. Actually, it's the last of Dunmore's War, the first of the Revolutionary War. And it's marked, there's a memorial service down there that's given. This is actually up in Parkersburg. Captain James Neal was the grave that we was marking there. This is the marking over for the Vandell, Abraham Vandell. This is a grave marking for him. That was held over in Anstead. This is Eagle Scout. This was the state Eagle Scout winner, Zach Mason, won the essay contest for the state. This is his father, Chris, and Kim, his mother. They're in the Scouts. If it wouldn't be for volunteers in Scouts, it wouldn't be a good program, and they are all in it. This is this year's SAR. This is the annual meeting for the West Virginia State SAR. Was some certificates that was given out to us. These are SAR events that happen at Point Pleasant. Actually, the Daniel Boone chapter, we had a flag ceremony that day. I was speaking to scouts in this picture here, one of our outreach. This is a Battle Days picture. This is actually Daniel Boone. This gentleman portrays Daniel and his wife portrays Rebecca. They are actually in the Daniel Boone chapter, which is the one that meets right here in this room. This is our chapter here. This is Chief Cornstalk. This is a gentleman from Ohio, Keith Kaufman. He's a chapter president over there, and myself. This is the Powder magazine that's down at Point Pleasant. This is where we hold our marking ceremony, which is coming up the first weekend in October. We'll be down there. Saturday will be for schools coming through. We usually see about anywhere between 400 to 600 kids. When they come through, we do demos for them. There, a couple gentlemen from our chapter go down there besides myself. And we have compatriots down in Point Pleasant that are part of this also. They're the ones that spearhead this event. This is a speech that we went. Mr. Greathouse sitting right back here is the head of Roane County Historical Society. He asked us to come up. As you can see, I threw some of my stuff out up there. Gave a speech up there. Over here in this corner is Jamie. She's sitting right back here in the back. She is a Revolutionary War specialist here at the archives. She's a member of the DAR also. These are some of the things that we do at Point Pleasant. This is actually the siege that we have down there, third weekend in May, when we do the murder of Chief Cornstalk. This is actually Cornstalk and Redtail coming in the gates. So this was from this year when we executed the Tory spy. We hung the British flag around his neck. We executed him, and I took it off of him and brought it out, and they carried him out the back. This lady right here, she actually portrays Mad Ann Bailey. If you know anything about local history, Mad Ann Bailey rode from here to Lewisburg and back to get gunpowder when Fort Lee was under attack. They asked for men to come. No men would step up. Her name was Ann Trotter. She later married a Bailey. She took it upon herself to ride over and back, and for riding over and back and bringing gunpowder back here to Fort Lee, they gave her the horse. But Suzanne, she portrays Mad Ann Bailey. This was a speech that she had down there. We sat in, got to talk to her. She's real nice. This is actually Jamie sitting back here. This is Gilbert Casto. He's an SAR member here in the chapter, myself. This is the inside of Fort Randolph down there. So it's like home. This one is actually, we're getting ready to go over and drag this gentleman that had been shot. We're dragging him up to have 2 dogs work on him up on the deck. These are some more pictures of Fort Randolph, the things that we do down there. This is Cornstalk coming in another year. This is Alanetsa Cove. This is, just the other day, we had a shoot down there. This is what this picture's from. I take my Boy Scouts down there. This is actually a muster. This was actually the first year that I participated in down there. So if you would like to get into reenacting, don't think that you have to have all this stuff to get in. Trust me. The first time that I went in here, in this picture right here, I had a borrowed white shirt on. I had a pair of hospital scrubs that I had cut the pockets out of because they were cotton, and I was barefooted. Everything else, the only thing other I carried on me was a haversack, and that was just for looks. All I was down there the first year was cannon fodder, and I toted firewood and water the first year. So it's not, I mean, it is an expensive sport to get into, but if you want to get into it, it's not, you can come down and watch, you can come down and get involved only as much as you want to get involved in. That's the end of my presentation. These are things that I do. I'm advancement chairman for a new troop that we started up at Bell. I'm merit badge counselor for Scouts. I ran day camps for 5 years out of Coonskin Park. So if y'all have any grandkids that would have come up through the Cub Scouts for the last 5 years, I've had them out at Coonskin Park. I'm a board member of Fort Randolph. I'm Daniel Boone chapter president. Matter of fact, Daniel Boone secretary and treasurer and vice president are in the room right now. So if you gentlemen or if you ladies want to talk to any of us about joining the SAR when we're done, Mr. Greathouse is there, Mr. Casto's in the back. We will gladly, and myself, we will gladly take your information down and get you started. We would love to have this chapter here in town be the biggest again. It used to be the biggest chapter in the state. We're working on that again. We've put 18 people in last year in our chapter alone. Wind it out. Any questions? Yes, ma'am.
Could you talk about some of the items that you have laying out
I
there?
don't know who put these up here on this desk.
And your outfit, please.
My outfit.
What you're wearing, carrying.
This right here is a longer waistcoat. This is actually a French and Indian War waistcoat. Revolutionary War waistcoats, if you notice, will be up here. They are up here as between 1750 and 1776. The waistcoats get a little bit shorter. How do I turn this off? They get a little bit shorter.
Mighty shiny buttons is what I kept thinking.
Oh, yes, ma'am,
You're a
they
good
are.
target.
Well, you know, I would be out on the farm, and somebody would ride by and say, militia muster. I would hear a church bell. I wouldn't be wearing this. This is actually Virginia militia documented attire. Tan linen shirt with red collars and red cuffs, signified Virginia militia. This is actually the uniform that our Daniel Boone Color Guard wears. Acceptable breeches or trousers, either one. Men out here on the frontier preferred trousers because you didn't have to have your leggings, which are these. You didn't have to wear your leggings over top of your socks and your breeches. These go up to your knees. Your breeches, as you know, only comes to your knees. So in order to not have to wear these, they accepted a trouser. They adopted a trouser out here on the frontier. You can take a piece of leather. You can pull your top of your moccasins up. You flip your skirt of your moccasin up, wrap it and tuck your bottom of your breeches down in it, tie a piece of rawhide around it, and go. Keeps ticks out, keeps your legs protected as you're running through the brush, running through all the nasties that you get when you're on the run. That protects you. This right here, there's a list of things. One of the things in the list for Virginia militia was a red collar and cuff linen shirt, which this happens to be. The only other thing, your hat had to have a 2.5-inch brim. They gave you a list of things that you had to carry. Your powder horn had to carry at least a pound. You had to have at least 50 ball on you, shot ball on you. You had to have 2 pieces of flint. You had to have a canteen that held at least a quart of water. You had to have a haversack that you could stuff 3 days' meal in. You had to have a knife or a hawk. This knife right here, you see when you come up here after a while, these knives right here are actually handmade knives. They're made out of files, which a blacksmith really wouldn't want to let one of his prized files go. He would have resharpened this file and continued to use it. If I was running out of the door and I had militia muster yell at me, I would grab the closest hawk I had, which you kept on at all times. I would have grabbed the hawk, I would have shoved it down there. I would have said, "Sorry, honey, here's your butcher knife," and it's gone. This is what is mostly documented, a thin butcher knife, no hump on the top of it. You know, the older butcher knives, how they all come up with the hump on the top of them and the big wide blade. 10-inch blade, no hump on the top. This one's made out of an old blank. Actually, it's got mahogany handle on it. Knives back then had brass pins in them, no rivets. I made this knife. I got a piece of metal in there because I shoved it in my side one day. And it didn't feel really too good. So, but this is would have been one knife that was carried. On an average day, some of them little boys go, "Well, that's really nice you have a knife on you." No, if you start looking around and start looking in my pockets or in my haversack, any given day I'm carrying probably 4 knives. I have one for eating, one for fighting, I have one for eating. I have a couple extra stuff down in the bottom of my haversack. Your haversack, all this stuff on this table, well, at least one of all this stuff in this table goes in this bag. This would have been either linen or hemp. This one is actually a hemp-made bag. It's a real nice one because I actually have 2 pockets in the inside and 1 pocket on the outside. I have a pocket flap for documents up on the top of it. So, and the linen, and these all can be documented. It's got a linen strap on it. I have 3 different kind of fire kits here. Since I do flint and steel, magnifying glass fire building skills for kids, I have a horsehide wallet. Keep a magnifying glass in it. I have this fire kit right here. When you come up to look at it, it actually has a map on it. It's got a map from Point Pleasant to Charleston. Right here's the Elk River, here's Charleston. The gully in the New River up here actually has a little canal up here and the Ohio over here. The scouts from that were at Point Pleasant, when they took off on their on their scouting trips, every 2 days one would go out. They would come from Point Pleasant up here to the Elk River. They would go up the Elk River to the Little Canal River. The Little Canal, they would go back over to the Ohio and back down. That was a 3-day walk for them. They would cover that every 3 days. So you had one go out, 3 days later they would send another one out. If Indians found you with a map, you were dead. They would take maps, they would sew them in the linings of their shirts, they would sew them in the lining of their pants, they would make them on deer hides, and they would stick them down in the hunters would stick them down in the inside of their blocks of hides to keep the Indians from finding them, because as soon as the Indians found a map on you, you was dead. There was no red face for you, it was a black face, and a black face signified that you was put up and that you were dead. Eating utensils. This just happened to be a kit I bought, 2-pronged fork. If you notice, they're pinned, bone handles on them. I have a cherry plate here. Most of this bigger stuff wouldn't be carried in a haversack. You would carry one good fire flint and steel kit. You would have carried a couple different bags. This is actually a shop bag that goes in here. This is fustian, which is a blend of linen and cotton. This is a tea pouch. This is another food bag that I have. I actually have another bag in here because my food bag is empty because I took everything out from this past weekend. This is a oiled canvas bag. A little bit bigger bag, but it's waterproof. I would have kept jerk meat in this. I would have kept sugar, parched peas, parched corn in this other bag. 1 cup. I would slid this cup in here. This is my daily ration of rum. This is a jig of rum. Things got bad, I got a half a jig every day. This was my rum cup. This is another rum horn. I mean, this cup here is just a piece of cow horn. This spoon here is a lead spoon. It's for pouring lead shot. This is another small canteen. I'm stitching these canteens up back here. As you can see, the bottom ain't done on them yet. But these are 2 different styles of canteens here. Tabs on them. Would have had a piece of either hide or linen on those. As I said, I don't like carrying 3 or 4 knives. This is another leg knife that I made. Powder horn. This is your shop bag. You can carry your powder horn like this. You can carry your powder horn on another strap by itself. This is pre-measured for my guns. I use 55 grain. This is a pre-measured. This is actually a piece of elk horn. This is a vent pick and a pan brush. There's vent holes in these that come from the pan when you put the gunpowder in your pans to set your charge off. If that's not kept clean and swept clean after every 3 or 4 shots, it's going to gum up because that black powder, it gums up really bad. So this is a clean the pan, and this is a vent pick. Also, they made me dump my powder. They made me dump my gunpowder out. This is actually another vent pick on here. So keeping that vent hole open was something that is dire important. This is a drinking cup that I carry. Here's another noggin, that's a drinking cup that can be carried. This is a big meat fork for my brazier. This right here would have been, the extra stuff that's not carried in here would have been carried on a box like this one down underneath here, and would have been shipped ahead to camp if this right here, I would have put, this is called a snap sack. It's open on both ends. You roll your blanket, an extra shirt up in this. I would have put another cup. I would have put another fire kit. I would have put a bowl to eat out of. I would have put my corn broiler out in here. I would have put 1 candle in it and a holder. I would put extra lead in here. I would, if possible, I would have probably put another larger powder horn with powder in here. I would have carried 1 pound at least on my hip. I would probably carried another pound and probably another 100 ball in here in lead. This was carried, it was either carried like on your shoulder this way, was carried split over top of you, or was carried on your head like this. Because once you get out Your hat would have been ditched, would have been stuck in here, would have been folded up and stuck in here. I would have either put a workman's hat on or a bandana around my head. Slap sack was, haversack came first, slap sack was second. This is called a new improved haversack. It's leather and canvas, it's waterproof, has a pocket down at the bottom, a pocket in the top. I could carry everything in this. I mean, literally all that stuff over there would have fit in here in a heartbeat. Folded over, waterproofed, adjustable straps on it. This tie right here on the front, there's a tie here. This actually goes around the other side and ties across your chest. So when you're on the run, if you see any Revolutionary War pictures, British had theirs. The British had one like this, and it was usually bare skinned on the back of it. This one just happens to be handmade out of leather. Tomahawks, your best friend. You can do anything that you wanted to. I have 3 styles. This one's a fluted. This is a smaller hawk. This one's a good throwing hawk. It sticks really good. I was sticking it this weekend. This one I just picked up. You can tell the difference in it. This is a heavy-handed hawk. It's got a real heavy head on it. This hawk here would have been actually a British boarding axe. It would have been used to tie. You stuck it in the holes in the edge of the ship to tie ropes on. You would have boarded. You would have stuck it in the other side to board with, or catch a rope with, peg a rope. It's got a real nice blade on it to cut rope with. Made it in. A lot of guys would have taken this off the ship and they would have used it. It's a little hard to, a rounded head hawk, you don't stick yourself in the back so much. You carry this, you end up either getting your arm stuck on it or you get it stuck in your back when you move from it. But it is an excellent hawk. This is a small priming horn. This would have been carried inside your pouch. Sometimes not at all. I have an extra horn on the back here. This horn right here. A buddy of mine made this horn for me. He since passed. So this is the last horn that John Clegg ever made. He was a buddy of mine from Parkersburg and a re-enactor. And if you look at this horn, it actually has the Declaration of Independence started on the top of this horn. It's got John Hart, it's got Thomas Stone's signature, it's got John Hancock, Benjamin Franklin, and John Adams on here. It's got a compass rose on the back of it. It's got my name on it. So this is, this horn means so much to me. I only bring this out on special occasions. I would wear it at SAR events. I brought it here tonight. I don't normally bring it out. This one stays on the rack at the house. But it's a beautiful testament of what somebody can do with an old cow horn. So this is one of the very first horns that I had. You can see it's just a little cheap black horn. Nothing spectacular about it. A little wooden plug in the end of it, and that's it. This would have been the common man's horn. This right here, well, I'll start at the top. This is a 50 caliber Tennessee portable. It's got a small pistol lock on the side of it. It's got a flat nose up here on the top. This was the way that it was made in the Appalachians. This is, I can document this gun back to about 1785. This gun would have came into effect. They were made from whatever you could make them from. That's why it has a small pistol lock on it. This is actually a large pistol lock on this one. This one, as you notice, and all the furniture on this here, the thimbles here, the sights, all this is iron. Iron was more prominent. The poor man would have had iron opposed to brass. This is about basic as a gun as you can get. As you can see, it's a 2-trigger gun. It has a set trigger, the back trigger's a set trigger, front trigger's a file trigger. Your firing trigger on it.
Now, accurate.
250 yards. I can shoot a Viennese sausage can off a fence post at 75 paces with it. She's sweet, and it shoots real good. That's what I was using at a shooting match this week, past weekend. I picked this one up. This one is, it's going to go into the shop and get deglazed. It looks too shiny. I picked this one up. This is a 45 caliber. This is a Pennsylvania style gun. It's actually would be an early Lancaster style. It has brass nose piece. It's got brass thimbles in it, brass trigger guard. It's also a double trigger. It's got set trigger on it. It's got brass buttstock on it. Now you notice the curvature in this buttstock opposed to the curvature in this buttstock. And also, this is a later model. This would have been probably about a 1784, 85 model. But as you can, the drop in these, whenever you pull a gun up to look down the barrel, if you set these together, you set them on their butt plates, you notice the difference in them? As the ages got earlier to the 1800s, the flatter your stock would have been on the back. This is an earlier gun. It's got a pronounced drop on it. This one flattens out a little bit more, and as you know nowadays that the butts of the guns are almost straight out now. Very little drop in them. This is a 62 caliber pistol. Pistols wasn't used for dueling at this time. This is actually the equivalent to a 12 gauge. This pistol was the horse stock. You knock a man's horse down, you get him on the ground, he's fair game. It's between you and him then. One shot makes an excellent club. That's about all. That's about all it is. And this shoots really good. I like shooting this pistol too. Now, this gun here, before I get to it, you notice how skinny these stocks are on the back. The butt plates on these are skinny. So these are later models. This is a replica of a Brown Bess, 1763. This has got 8 inches cut off the barrel, 6 to 8 inches cut off the barrel. It's only one sight because it's a smooth bore. These are both rifled barrels on this. This is like a shotgun, point and aim. This shoots ball, this shoots glass, this shoots nails, it shoots rocks. Anything you want to shove in here, she'll put down range. This is what the British you'd come up against us with. Effective range, you're pushing it at 100 yards. 90, 100 yards. But when you're using a ball that is a 3/4 of an inch ball, this ball right here is a 50 caliber ball. This is a 75 caliber ball. 100 yards, 200 yards, 250 yards. That's why, and I've seen a lot of people say that 100 yards. This is a cartouche bag. This is how you kept your ball and this is how you kept your powder. If you were shooting this, I would have kept my powder in here and had my ball in my pocket. The British used paper cartridge and put a ball on top of it. Actually, it was upside down. The ball would have been down here on the bottom, would have been loaded with paper or gunpowder on top of it. Ripped the end of it off. That's why the British said you had to have 2 good teeth Had to have them opposed so you could bite this, that was their only requirement. Had to have 2 good teeth, and that was to rip these open. If you rip them open, pour the gunpowder down, crimp the end of that, shove the rest of it with the ball and the paper and wadding in there. Down in the bottom of it. This has actually got a flint walled on the outside of it. This one carried about 20 shot. It's got a waterproof hinge on it. Closure's, this is all leather. Closure's even leather on this. This is a bayonet frog. It's what you carry your bayonet in. This is your bayonet for your brown vest. That's the only thing that this front sight is for, is to hold that bayonet in place. It's not that, it's just like a shotgun and then any other sense. But this is, had 6 to 8 inches on here, and this is what the common British soldier was carrying at the time. So,
It's actually quite intimidating.
yeah, but if you ain't got to get up close to see it, but yes, it is. It is very intimidating. And somebody that was raised over here, that this is what they would have seen, or they would have saw a Fowler, a shotgun, most of their lives. They would have saw those gleaming in the sun. Yeah, it would have caused the militia to run. So I have repair kit here. This is stuff that would be carried inside of this pouch to repair on your guns. There's a breech scraper, a ball puller, another ramrod tip, and a patch worm. They all go on the end of your ramrods. Extra piece of flint, an extra piece of flint to nap another flint out of. This is gun lube, bear grease, whatever you want to put in one of these. Actually, some of these are drilled. You notice the patch box on the side of some of the fancier guns? That is what that patch box was for, was to keep grease in and keep it clean. You can find some guns that just somebody's taken a knife and just made a big divot in here. Just smear a bit of bear lube in there, and if you needed to patch it, and if you need to lube your patch, wipe your patch on it, put it on the end after you dump it, put your ball down. On the run, handful of ball in your mouth, it's called spitball, spit patches, dump your powder in, spit right down the barrel, because you're going to shoot. You don't have to worry about accuracy, you want something up close. So, feel free to come up, wander around, ask any questions, and I'll answer any questions. Like I said, if you want to join the SAR, we'll gladly have you, and we'll work with you to put you in the SAR, any way, shape, or form that we can help you out. When we come to schools, scout troops, we'll definitely come to schools and scout troops. So that is about the end of my presentation. This is a little bit of the stuff that I have. So feel free to come up and ask any questions that you need to ask. Take our namesake for us, Daniel Boone. No, I actually have a buddy that portrays Daniel Boone, and he, yeah, and he's in our chapter too.
All right, thank you, sir.
Thank you, and just, you don't have to be a member, just join. They put out on the website whenever we're going to have a meeting every other month on Saturday and 11 o'clock. Just stop in and see what we're about. Thank you. You're welcome.
Have a black powder pistol that was handmade. My dad, well, Hart, ball maker, you know,
Yeah.
he did everything. It's numbered and all. It's a neat piece.
This
And
one-
the powder horn.
Right, this one actually here is Corcoran, the gentleman that made that, is, well, he's dead now.
This gentleman was a gumper.
He made it, he was from Oklahoma. So I actually have a 58 caliber double barrel pistol. It's flintlock, so
I've kept this in the safe. I get it out every now and then, clean it, put it back
back,
in.
yep.
How much weight would a
A lot
man
of times, he'll
normally
just
carry
simply take that
if he's,
information,
you know, on his 3-day
fill that out, rather than
round, or
filling
if
it
he's
out
actually,
with anything out
if he's
of
on
it.
3-day, he would probably end up
He
carrying about
fills
20
that out
pounds.
that's
online.
not bad.
If he was on longer than that, he would have probably carried about 40.
With the application.
Well, because your gun weighs about 10 pounds out of by itself.
Would most of this have been done on foot?
Yes, ma'am.
That's, you know, you're carrying that much weight, that,
Always on foot and
and in some rough areas.
oh yeah. Well, you know, when Lewis and Clark made their expedition back, they went through a pair of moccasins every 3 days. New moccasins one day, patched it the next day, threw it away the next day.
Wow.
Sometimes,
So
obituaries,
moccasins, these are elk hide. I made these are elk hide moccasins.
or something.
Nice job on them too.
Oh, they're kind of wore out. The toes are wore out of them. But they're good for old cotton.
What is this piece? Is that
You tell me.
I would say that it's a measurer. Is it a jig for, to measure
Steve, do you have your business card here?
There's a couple over there on that board. I don't
It
have it
slides
now.
open, I can
Yes,
tell.
ma'am. See, this is my journal, right?
Okay.
Okay.
That's got your,
This is, whoop, my pen's gone. My feather in my hat is my pen. This is my inkwell, this is my dried
Okay.
ink, and this is my sand.
okay. What a neat setup.
This would have made me an educated person because I carry this right here.
That
Which
is,
I wonder about, but yeah. My persona is the
this is a piece I've never seen before. You know, growing up in the country, most of these items I have seen.
These are these are my bags. These are
Yeah.
Houston. Have it in a stitch.
It's not bad. Pretty good. I have some Lindsay Woolsey that my great-great-grandmother, they actually grew it and, you know, I've only got a square of it about this big. But the old fabrics fascinate me.
Now see this, notice there's only one hole in this burn up. This is what I make char cloth in. I layer my cloth in here, put my lid on my cloth, throw it in the fire, and it burns. And since it pressurizes when it's burning the impurities out of 100%, smoke will come out this hole. Now, once the smoke comes out of that hole and quits coming out, you can see I make a lot.
Yeah.
Once the smoke quits coming out of this hole, kick it out of it and let it drop down because, and then you'll have char cloth to catch your fire.
Really important to catch a spark in the
Yeah,
charcoal.
because
That's cool.
if you don't, well, okay, this right here. Now, this is the candle fire kit. Okay. Now, see how I have this? This is what I transported in because it's so fragile. I do keep a couple pieces of char in the underneath down here in the bottom. See, I have a couple pieces of char in the bottom of there. Now I keep a couple pieces of pine pitch in there. This will add about, well, this piece. If I broke this piece in, use this little piece right here on there, I would get about 3 or 4 extra minutes of burn time. So I keep that in there, keep some jute in here. That's what I make my bird's nest off of. I have a couple pieces of flint in here, small pieces of flint and a striker, and a small candle. So that's this fire kit. This fire kit right here has actually got a map on it. Goes from Point Pleasant up to
Who
Charleston.
did this one? Who did your scrimshaw on
My
that?
buddy did this one, Gil Casto. He gave it to me the other day because he says, I do demo flint and steel, and I've been eyeballing this. And I said, well, Gil, because I was asking him, did you make this like this or it's like this? And he said, well, he said, this one came like this, but if you heat, like when I make my powder horns, what you do is you heat you make your plug, and then you heat your horn in hot water, and then you shove, see this is mahogany in this. So what happened was this was made the original size of this. I heated it up and shoved it up in there, and that's how far it come up in there. And then I put oak, those are oak pins in there. So
The one that I have, the gentleman had made has all the pins. It has the rounded head and it has the old.
the brass pins in it.
No, it has wooden pins
Oh,
in
that's
it,
the way this
yeah.
one is. This is wood pinned. Yep.
Yeah, I recognize that, but he's got the curve. It has a little more of a curve to it.
Yeah, on the
It's
bo-
not
oh,
a, it's
for
not a large.
Oh, for a horn, a powder
uh-huh.
horn. Yeah, this
it's-
is a rum
that's
cup.
Your rum cup,
This
but
is my
it
rum
was
cup.
about yay
this
long,
is
I
a-
guess.
This is a little canteen I'm working on.
Did they use any wooden canteens?
Yes, they did. Coopers would have made those the little barrels. They either make the little long, it looks actually like a little barrel about this long, or they make the flat barrel ones. But yeah, they would have used them. So it's that's horsehide.
The more it's used, the softer it gets.
Yes,
and
ma'am.
That's beautiful.
See, this is called a market wallet. Now, if I would have had my slap sack on and had everything else in there, what would have I didn't carry in there or needed access to, I would have filled this side and this side, and then you twist it, put a twist in it like this, so it closes it, and throw it over the top of your shoulder. Now, whenever you put your pack on, the string actually goes across here. You can wear it across your head, you can wear it across your shoulder, and it'll lock this on and keep it from sliding up and down. But this is a market wallet. Everybody says, "Oh, a market wallet's that." No, this is a market wallet.
That's your purse.
Yep. But this is actually, I'm getting ready to make me this is my pepper shaker here. Actually, I'm going to take that P and make it into an A and put salt on this one since I have that, and I'm going to make me a pepper out of that one. The reason that they used pepper was, well, one for seasoning, but when meat starts to go rancid, you can't taste it with pepper.
Yeah, with enough pepper on it.
Yeah.
Of course, you may still get sick, but
Well-
I don't think at that time they understood the theory of keep it clean either.
Yep. So,
That would not have been carried on campaign, would it? Too heavy for the use?
too heavy. 10 cup.
Yeah, 10,
10 cup.
yeah,
Now, see, I
not as
actually,
breakable, and
yep. See, I put this one inside of here.
this you can heat.
Yeah, and this is cooler for coffee or tea, actually tea. And like I said, this is a gill cup.
I would say they probably drank more tea than coffee.
Yes, they did. Yes, they did. And I have gunpowder tea, and I have gunpowder and Irish blend. My breakfast tea's in there. But
I love the corncob handle, that's cool.
yeah, that's my bullet mold. Now these two knives here.
Now that's your puller.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, okay.
My lead ladle. Now this one is made of a front leg of a deer in a file, and this was made of a ham bone, a deer ham bone. And it come loose, so I
Yeah.
see where it's starting to split a little deeper. So you wet me a piece of deer rawhide, put it around there, and stitch it up
dry.
with sinew. Yep, stitch it while it's wet with sinew, and that would have been it.
I think the ink carrier
And see all of
is
these.
so fascinating to me.
Right. See, all-
That's one thing I had never thought about was how did they carry ink? Had
all-
never thought of it.
Yep, powder, and you spit in it, or if you run out of that, you just take your knife and nick your finger, signing in blood. It's a blood oath.
Yeah.
But all of these little knickknacks, they all go inside my corn broiler.
Mm-hmm.
And this right here doubles as you're eating.
Yeah.
And then I don't think that I would have carried a knife and a fork to save
just
weight.
use
I
what
would
you-
have used my knife. If I couldn't use my knife to poke it, I would have ended up drinking it.
Or eat it with your fingers.
Yep, fingers were made before knives.
That's right.
But yeah, there's been a lot of meals cooked in this. But
What kind of wood do we have here?
that's I don't know.
Cicada.
I found
That's
that.
Philippine.
I found that and I just couldn't do without that little bowl. That makes a nice soup bowl.
Oh, yeah.
I was at a shoot last weekend with the American Long Rifle Association. I took down a 200-year-old recipe apple harvest cake. I made bear stew, loaf of bread, and corn on the cob. It's dinner.
Sounds good. I went to some black powder shoots with my dad when I was a kid, and I can still smell in my head the way that, I mean, there's nothing else like it.
No,
And
not true
I
black
used to
powder.
love it. I used to love to go.
This is I'm getting ready to make this into a powder horn. See how these ridges are on here?
Large horn.
Yeah, it's a storage horn. See how these ridges are on here? This was actually, you can feel all the way up there right here, feel where they was ridged. Now, you lay down, take your knife, and you just
Sit and,
start like this.
yeah, just shave.
And that's all you, I mean, see how little this is?
Uh-huh.
You smell you can start to smell it as you do it, but that's, yeah. And I sat out on the porch for a week, just like this, and I mean,
Whoa, careful.
that's all right, that's gotta be cut off
Oh,
anyway.
okay.
But you just keep on laying down like that, and you just keep on, and then when you get a nick in it from one way, you just work it back the other way like this. But that's one. I actually have one I'm working on back here. And this one was ridged all the way up like that too.
Joseph Dooley.
Joseph Dooley is right now he's this year's president.
Hackensack, New
Yep,
Jersey.
he's the president of the Sons of the American Revolution. He's
That's
the
a
president
beautiful,
general.
that's a beautiful horn.
Yeah,
Coloring, it always is interesting what different colors, you know, the markings and all that.
now that one over there on the end, this one was actually a pink. This one right here, this one was actually pink.
Wow,
But this one, the one that,
that's beautiful, absolutely beautiful. The woodwork on it, the detail,
yep.
knobbed and,
This horn was made by John Clegg. This is the last horn that he made.
yeah.
But he asked me, he said, what 3 things do you want on the horn? And I said, I want my name on it. I want a compass rose, and I just want a little scroll of the Declaration of Independence on there and my John Hart's name. And 6 months later, this is what I ended up with.
That's gorgeous. Let him get a good picture of it here.
But this is John Hart right here, and this is my wife's Thomas Stone.
Oh, he even did the
Oh, he did
squiggle
all-
like the
yeah.
Benjamin Franklin,
Yeah.
the original
Yep.
signatures and everything. That's great.
He sure did. Yeah. And
Now, what
made
does
this
he
one.
use to darken in the lettering?
Indian ink.
India?
Yes, ma'am. See, this one's, it's got JC here. And then, see, this is scrimshawed around. You see, John Clegg right there.
Yeah.
This is a small powder horn. It's a priming horn, or a day horn. But see, this one actually unscrews here. This is threaded on here.
Wooden thread?
No, that's horn.
It's horn thread?
Yes, ma'am.
Let's see this.
That's horn thread, and this one over here is actually got,
Certain times we seem to be so proud.
this one right here is a deer antler that's threaded.
And I'm gonna tell you, that takes some work. Look at the threads on this.
Well funded, like grab by Lord Dunmore and the
That is amazing.
they're going in the lot. ancestors that came, because they didn't come with enough people or.
So that would be filled with gunpowder too?
They have to
Yes,
burn.
it would be filled with. I shoot
Pop
triple,
this off the
yes ma'am, I shoot triple F.
beautiful piece.
And I use a fine triple F because I can use it in the pan and down the barrel both. These right here would have used, sometimes they shot double F in them. But triple 4F, the finer you grind it, the finer, the quicker it goes off. I actually, when I hunt with this one, I use 7F powder in the pan. It's like a talc. It's like a talc powder, yep.
It must have I've been heading for the hills.
Yep,
Well, they counted on that. They actually
Yeah.
thought that
The
would,
intimidation was part of their show.
but
yeah.
then they sort of discovered that we could shoot better.
oh yeah.
And,
This was, like I said, would have been 8 inches, 6 to 8 inches shorter. And see, it comes up.
Okay, I wondered.
Longer.
Okay, it
Comes
locks,
up, and locks,
okay.
and comes up. That's
But anyway,
3
Like
step.
a shotgun.
Yep, yeah, it's a.
so it really would have been like come up to here,
Yeah, yeah.
here on yours.
It would have come up, barrel would have been about this much longer.
Right.
But this is, it's cut down, a carbine. This has been a gun that would have been used on a ship. So running through the holes down bottom, they would have cut 6, 8 inches off the end of it. And notice it has a steel ramrod in it.
and that's where Dr. Al got the.
But when you do a weapons check,
That's what you always do.
you hold it like this and you drop it. Because when you hear that, that means that there's nothing in the back of the breech plug on here.
Well, for me, we would have more, because what they limited us to actions.
Who made this one, do you know?
No, I don't.
But I was probably 21.
I don't, but it's
Walking this.
it's got the tire marking. It's got the King George tire markings on it.
And then, of course, this was the 80s,
So,
pre-internet. I didn't do.
but it's a nice gun.
But there's no maker mark on it.
No.
Any kind.
No.
A lot of them would have had, but not all.
Now, mine has no maker marks on it. But this, like I said, this is what this shoots. My top one back here is a 50 caliber. That's the difference in the ball.
That's, I'm not sure what caliber the pistol I have is, but it's close to this.
Now, this one in front of it's a 45 caliber, and this one right here is a 62 caliber.
That would put a hole and a half in you, you'd leak real bad.
Yep.
And then they also, was it Nicholas County?
We better watch the time here. Thank you.
Ma'am,
Thank
pleasure
you.
having you.
Very, very enjoyable, very informative.
The one
I
that
did enjoy it.
come down to
But I mean, he
the
was.
fort and watch us play down there.
I will do that sometime.
We have a good time.
I bet.
I'm sure.
I've been there, but I've not been there when there was doing it, you know, when there was any reenacting going on. But I've been there.
Been here since.
Like I said, the butcher knife, this knife right here,
But
See,
I
it's-
found the ship's law, they came over as part of the Pentagon. And then settled into the band over there.
that would have been the common size knife that they would have used.
And then migrated to
They're out in the country.
Yep,
Yeah, it's.
Yeah, you know, everything
It's kind of.
had to serve more than one purpose.
yeah. So, I mean, everything's, you know, everything you got decorated or, see, this is a fluid bulk here.
I was, the balance on it,
So it gets thick. This is when I was throwing it over the weekend. But you feel how heavy the head is on this
yeah.
one?
I picked it up, I picked both of them up earlier, and this balances. That doesn't.
That one's, as head heavy as that one is, that one's a 5-step, this is about
Do
a
you have a
7-step.
blacksmith?
Oh, I got a
Who
buddy at
does?
the blacksmith, yeah, he made that one back there for me, a British boarding axe. That's actually, he made that out of a railroad spike.
Yeah. That could be, this, to me, is more frightening than this.
Well, like I said, that would have been a British boarding axe. It would have been used to stick a rope,
Yeah,
to grab a
you
hold
could-
of it, or cut a rope loose, or
Hang on to whatever, or you could just fall into the wood and climb.
where you can stick it down in, and you stick it down in the hole, and half of it be sticking up and half of it down bottom, and you use it for a rope
You
anchor.
don't have any,
No, ma'am.
that surprises. Huh?
None of them.
None of them do?
No, ma'am.
I was out of town.
No, that's only for people that,
Would they not have a tendency to come loose then, once you have the wood?
no, because these are,
Oh, just a.
you notice that the heads are tapered smaller than the toes on these. Put them on upside down, set them that way. When they start to get loose, like when I was cutting stone, yep, I used to stick my tools in water over the weekend.
Yeah.
Keep the hammerheads tight on them.
Well, again, I thank you. Very informative.
Thank you, Steve.